Hey nerds, and welcome to Flash, Theories and Conspiracies. I'm Brian from Good Nerd Bad Nerd. Now, I didn't have a video last week due to some technical difficulties, but anything that was relevant last week is still relevant this week, and that's, changes from the Flashpoint timeline that are being carried over, things that are different from the original timeline. All this stuff is still coming up and plaguing Barry. This week, he found out that there's a speed lab, and he's never been in it, and Harrison Wells really kind of laid into him about the changing the past, only to forgive him for that because he knows Barry beats himself up enough for it. But this week we had Jesse Quick, we had a new villain, and we've got some questions about what's going on with Alchemy. So, jumping in, first things first, the new villain this week, Magenta, aka Frankie Kane. Now in the comics she was a one-time girlfriend of Wally West, and when her powers emerged, she met with some tragedy when her family was accidentally killed. She didn't know what to do with herself after that point and ended up being a part of the evil group, the New Rogues, which explains why she's a Flash villain. Now, her powers are exactly as you would expect. She can bend metal, she can control it, she can manipulate it, she can use magnetic fields to create shields, and she can actually also use those manipulation of magnetic fields to fly, or levitation. These are all the kind of abilities you've seen portrayed with Marvel's Magneto in the films. She has those, and she's kind of a fun character. She's not in the comics too much, and I'm not sure how much we're going to see of her, but if the theory that the alchemist, or Doctor Alchemy, is preparing all of these people for what's to come, as he has stated, it's possible we will see her reemerge during the invasion. But that's speculation still at this point that that's actually what he's preparing everyone for. So next, Magenta said that she was having dreams about her powers from the other timeline before she actually sought out Dr. Alchemy, or he found her. These are the same dreams that we know Wally's been having and that Jesse alluded to. So it's possible that people who had powers in the timeline, whether it's a metagene or the Speed Force, or however they were given these powers, that they are still connected to them, and that they are remembering things from that other timeline, and they're dreaming about it. So these dreams, Wally's dreams are going to get stronger and stronger, and they're probably going to force him to seek out Dr. Alchemy, and that's how he's going to get his powers back. He's not going to be able to kickstart them like Jesse did, because the particle accelerator didn't affect him in that way in this timeline. But somehow Dr. Alchemy is able to revive those powers from the previous timeline in people here, and Wally is going to be so desperate for them that he is going to seek out Dr. Alchemy to get his powers turned on in this timeline. But that brings us to the next thing. Who is Dr. Alchemy? We don't have too much to go on yet, but one theory is that it's Julian Albert, and this is the lab partner of Barry Allen's at the CCPD. The theory is twofold. One of the characters in the comics who used the moniker of Dr. Alchemy, his first name was Albert, and then you have Julian Albert, so there's that tie-in. But also, if you think about how Flash has written its villains, they've always been very close to the team. You had Harrison Wells was taken over, and Eobard Thawne was masquerading as him. In Season 2, you had Jay Garrick as the villain. Zoom had taken him over. So it's not far-fetched for it to be someone close to them, and this way we've got a kind of background and history with the character before they emerge as the villain. And so from that regard, it fits. Now, some people might say, but he came down into the police department and called out Magenta and demanded she stop and turn herself in and admit. And my answer to that would be, he wants Magenta that personality to completely take over Frankie. So he was pushing her, he was forcing her, he was egging her on so that the Magenta would take over and be completely dominant. That makes a lot of sense from how you see him reacting, because he hasn't been that aggressive at all in the series. So for him to do that seemed very out of character. But so far, again, we don't have too much information on who the Dr. Alchemy is, but this theory, a lot of people have had it, and it makes a lot of sense. And then finally, Jessie Quick. In the comics, her real name is Jessie Chambers, and she was given her speed powers by her dad. He recreated the speed equation for her so that she could get her powers and take over after him. In the comics, she would eventually team up to partner with Wally West during his term as the Flash, and they would go on to battle tons of people like Zoom, who she helped save him from on various occasions. Now, later on in her comic career, her father, Johnny Quick, actually had to sacrifice himself to save her from an evil speedster named Savitar. Now, what's interesting about this is we know Harrison Wells on the show will do anything to save Jessie, and it is perfectly within reason for him to sacrifice himself to save her from another evil metahuman, from Doctor Alchemy, from possibly another speedster, but it's unlikely we will see another speedster in that regard. So, what do you guys think? It'll be great to see Jessie Quick. We get to see her in her costume next week. Don't know how soon we're going to see Wally get his speed powers, but there's a lot of great things coming down the show. And tell me who you think Dr. Alchemy is. Do you like the idea that it is Julian Albert, or do you wish it would just be someone who wasn't so intertwined with the team already? Let me know your thoughts, and don't forget to check out my other theories and conspiracies on Supergirl and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So until next week, this has been Brian from Flash, Theories and Conspiracies on Good Nerd, Bad Nerd.